Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Foundry by Forge College. I'm super excited to have you here today because we're about to take a massive leap forward in our Web3 development journey. In this explainer, we're going to upgrade our basic Solidity knowledge and completely transform a static piece of code into a fully interactive blueprint. We're talking about adding state and interactive functions. Essentially, we're breathing real life into your smart contracts. So grab your digital hard hats because we're doing some heavy engineering today.
You know, up until now, we've been building what we call stateless contracts. Think back to our previous Hello World example. It was essentially an amnesic billboard. Sure, it could hold up a hard-coded sign that said hello, but it couldn't remember a single thing you told it, and it definitely couldn't change its message. Well, today, we're leaving that amnesia behind. We're going to build a stateful contract by bolting a persistent storage tank right onto our blueprint. We're finally giving our contract a memory.
Now, if you were with us for our last explainer, you'll remember we spent some time hunting down and identifying common vulnerabilities on Solana. That was an incredible deep dive, and honestly, it sets the perfect stage for today. You see, Solana's core architecture is fundamentally stateless. The data lives totally separate from the executable code. But as we pivot back to Ethereum and Solidity, the whole paradigm shifts. Ethereum is all about state management, right there natively within the contract itself. It's just a completely different way of thinking about your digital real estate.
So here's our technical schematic for today's blueprint upgrade. First, we'll cover moving from Solana to Solidity state. Second, we'll meet the state variable. Third, getters, setters, and constructors. Fourth, visibilities and gas costs. And fifth, verifying your smart contract.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, from Solana to Solidity state, and adding a persistent tank.
Before we write a single line of code, let's just make absolutely sure we know what we're moving away from. When you deploy a stateless function, it returns a fixed string straight from the code. It is completely unable to change its value after deployment. So if your contract says, hello world, and tomorrow you decide you want it to say, hello universe, no way, you're out of luck. You literally have to deploy an entirely new contract. Like I said earlier, a stateless contract is basically a read-only billboard that forgets everything the moment you blink. And we want to build a machine here, not a monument.
Which brings us to section 2, meet state variables, persistent on-chain data.
So how exactly do we cure this amnesia? Simple. We add a persistent storage tank. Meet the state variable. These are persistent storage fields right there on a contract that maintain data between transactions. When you type out a line of code like string public greeting outside of any specific function, you aren't just typing words on a screen. You are literally instructing the Ethereum virtual machine to carve out a permanent, on-chain storage slot specifically for your data. That variable lives in the contract state, and whatever you dump in there stays in there. It survives across millions of transactions until you explicitly decide to change it.
Moving on to section 3, getters and setters. This is where we wire up our access panels. Now, once you have that shiny new storage tank, you need a way to actually pipe information in and out of it, right? We use functions as our mechanical valves. Let's start with the deployment phase itself. A constructor is this special, completely optional function that runs exactly once at the exact moment your contract is deployed to the blockchain. This is the mechanism we use to inject our very first initial greeting. If we don't want our storage tank to just start out totally empty, we pass a starting string, something like hello Forge, right into the constructor. That primes the state variable before anyone else even has a chance to interact with the contract.
Once the contract is actually live, we use two very specific types of functions to interact with our persistent memory. Think of these as your two access panels. Over on the left, we've got the getter. This is what we call a view function. It simply peers into the storage tank and reads the current text out to you. Over on the right, we have the setter. This is an active mechanism. It takes a brand new string from a user, pushes it directly into the storage tank, and permanently overwrites the old state.
But hey, here's a really fun little secret for you. You don't actually always have to write the getter function yourself. The Solidity compiler is actually super helpful. If you use the keyword public when you declare your state variable, like typing string public greeting, the compiler will automatically build a free, invisible getter function for you behind the scenes. So if you ever spot a public variable in someone's code and wonder why on earth you can read it without seeing a custom read function, well, you can thank the compiler for doing the heavy lifting for you.
Next up is section 4, visibilities and gas. Let's talk about access rules and economics. Okay, we really have to talk about security now, because who is actually allowed to touch these access panels? In Solidity, visibility keywords act basically like security badges, and they determine exactly who gets to call your functions. We've got 4 main types here. Public means all access. Anyone, anywhere can call it. External means only external users or other contracts can call it, but not the contract itself. Internal means only the contract and its derived child contracts can use it. And private, that's the ultimate lockdown. Only this specific contract can see or use that function. Choosing the right visibility is absolutely crucial to keeping your state variables safe from unwanted interference.
So the really crucial point here is understanding the economic difference between our getter and our setter. On the left, view functions, our getters, are local and they are absolutely free. You're just reading data that your node already has on hand. But on the right, state-changing transactions, our setters, require network consensus. They literally have to be mined into a block. And because they are permanently altering the blockchain state, they consume gas.
To put it bluntly, yes, writing to the blockchain costs gas. Think of your contract as a digital taxi. Every single time you update that greeting, the network is going to charge you a fare for the computational effort and the storage space it takes. As you continue to explore Forge College's wider learning programs, you're going to quickly discover that balancing memory usage and gas fees isn't just some neat parlor trick. It's going to become one of your most vital engineering habits as a Web3 developer, because efficient code saves real money.
All right, Section 5. Verify your smart contract. Testing in Remix or Hardhat.
We've got the theory down, we've got the blueprint, so it's time for a hands-on checkpoint. Here is your simple 3-step assembly process. First, compile the code just to make sure there are no syntax errors and that your compiler version actually matches your pragma statement. Second, deploy the contract and remember to pass in your initial constructor string, because if you forget this, your greeting is just going to be awkwardly blank. Third, the real test. Call your setter function with a brand new message, but crucially, you have to wait for the transaction to be mined. Once the block is confirmed, go ahead and call your getter. You should see your brand new message staring right back at you.
Now look, if things don't work on the first try, please don't panic. We've all been there. Here's a quick troubleshooting guide for the most common debugging mistakes. Getting a totally blank string? You probably just missed your constructor arguments. Is your setter reverting and failing? Double check that you didn't accidentally slap a view keyword onto a function that is actively trying to change state. Are you getting mismatched parameter types? Check your strings. But I'll tell you right now, the #1 most common mistake is forgetting to wait for the transaction to mine. If you call the setter and immediately smash that getter button before the network even processes the update, you'll just see the old state and think your code is broken. Patience is definitely a virtue in Web3.
Let's quickly lock in our core principles of storage and memory from today. State variables, that's your persistent memory on the blockchain. View functions, they allow you to read that state completely for free. Setters, those actually modify the state, meaning they require mining and they will cost you gas. And finally, constructors, they are your one-time launch sequence to set the initial deployment state.
So you now have a fully functional, interactive, smart contract. But as you can probably guess, this baseline upgrade opens up a whole new set of challenges. Coming up next in our sequence, we'll be tackling error handling and access control. Because think about it, right now your setter is totally public. That means literally anyone on the internet can just waltz in and change your greeting. We need to add defensive checks and strictly enforce access control so that unauthorized actors can't come along and vandalize our shiny new storage tank.
So I'm going to leave you with this final engineering thought for the day. How will you restrict who gets to turn the dials on your smart contract? Start thinking about the logic you'd need to build to act as a digital bouncer for your functions. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I highly encourage you to head over to forge.college to dive much deeper into this subject, get hands-on with the actual code, and continue exploring all our amazing Web3 topics. Until next time, keep building and keep learning.